Kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Escondido in beautiful sunny Southern California. Hope you're all having a super fantastic sparkling day. Hey, some of you may or may not know, but I love genealogy. I love researching my family tree. I have been doing it for, a very, very long time, over 30 years. And it's always intrigued me about how, about connecting with other people in your tree and that sort of stuff. And now with the DNA testing and everything else coming out, it's given another dimension to doing family tree research. When I first started, it was before any of it was on the internet. So it was going into the archives and going through dusty old books and moldy old books and things. In fact, I remember one trip with my mum. She's the one that got me hooked on it. We went to the National Archives in Wellington, and it was in this older building, nothing like the building it's in now, but it was in this old building. It was all dusty and dimly lit and all of that sort of stuff. And we had the old card catalogue. We found my great-great-grandfather's numbers for the coroner's report. We submitted the form, they brought the book out, had to put the white gloves on, all that sort of stuff, and we sat there and we read the coroner's report. And it's one of those places where it was very, very quiet, and you had to whisper on a whisper. You had to be so quiet. It was just like dead silence, and it was all dusty, and you get that old book smell, and it was great. And we're sitting there reading this thing, and we start to chuckle, because in the coroner's reports, my great-great-grandfather fell into the Belclutha River and was drowned. And they didn't find it, and he fell in May, but they didn't find his body till August. So through the winter months in New Zealand, they didn't find him. But the day they found him, they did the coroner's inquest. And one of the things in there is that one of his workmates knew that it was my great-great-grandfather because of the boots he was wearing were made specifically to go around the corns on his feet. So I was finding fun stuff like that. Then the internet came in, and people started, Ancestry.com started up, and what's the other ones? Family Search, the Mormon started putting their stuff online. All the microfiche stuff that we used to go and search on, you can now search online. And so it's just interesting how it's all evolved. And now we've got the DNA testing that's come out with it all. And it's very interesting to see over the last few years how that's all developed and everything else. Now, I personally have done both Ancestry's DNA testing and 23andMe, because I wanted to compare them. Those were the two big ones, and I wanted to compare them to see how they came up with the results. And at the beginning, they were pretty much similar, and then of course, as technology has changed and they've got more samples coming in, so they're able to take a bigger test space and everything else, some of the results have changed over time. But basically, I'm British with English ancestry, particularly from Cornwall, and I've got Scottish in me, and I've got Irish in me, and so that's my makeup. But I'm like 75% English with a strong connection to Cromwell, and then 25% Irish and Scottish and Irish. So that's what it's done with me. But it's also now is that because of the DNA testing results, you can now start connecting with people who may be connected with you because you have some DNA in common, which has opened up a whole slew of new ways of connecting with people. So far, I have connected up with a couple of third cousins, a couple of seventh cousins, a third cousin twice removed. And if you want to know about that term, I'll explain that one at a later date. So keep that in the memory when I talk about removals. Got a funny story to go with that one. But anyway, so I've been met with those people, but you got to be very careful too, because you may have some DNA in common with them, but you may not actually be in the same family tree type of thing. And I've got friends, and I know of people who have found an entire new family that they never knew that existed. It could be that when they were younger, a parent passed away or a parent left. They had no information on that parent that left. Then years later, through this DNA testing, they find a whole another side of their family tree, which is kind of cool in a way. And some of the stories that come out of it, and you watch programs like Who Do You Think You Are, and they're now doing DNA testing on that as well, and just finding the stories that come out through that has just been awesome. I love watching that program, only because it also gives me it's just really cool. It's a big mystery. And now we've got a really cool one. So this happened to me just the other day. I had somebody contact me through the DNA thing that they matched, and they told me who their third-time great-grandparent was, and mentioned that I had this person in my tree. So I went and had a look, and sure enough, I had this person in my tree. But here's the real thing. I'm not actually blood related to that person, because that person, who is this person's 3 times great grandmother or something, is the great grandmother of the guy who adopted. In fact, their timeline's completely out of whack. Because the person that they mentioned, I only have one of them in my tree. Excuse me. And that person was the great grandmother of the guy who adopted my great grandmother. So there's no way that that person could be the same person that's her 3rd time great grandmother. So it's kind of interesting when she came in and she says, oh, well, you've got this person in your tree and I'm related to that person's, I'm actually descend from their mother and blah, 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 blah. But I'm sort of like, well, that's really interesting because I have no bloodline thing. But there is a family rumor that went around a little bit saying that my great-grandmother's adoption was actually an in-family adoption. So I thought, well, maybe that. But then I looked at the actual timeline and I thought, well, there's no way this person could be the 3rd great-grandmother when they're like my 5th great-grandmother. So it's sort of like, yeah, she would have to be really old for that to happen. But anyway, so it's bringing up interesting things. And then it's bringing up people who are sending me messages because we've got this connection. And they're going, hey, I'm related to so-and-so. Can I have a look at your tree? And I am extremely protective of my tree. My tree has over 7,700 people in it. And it's both my side of the family and Brad's side of the family that's in there. I am very, very restrictive on who I let see the tree. I'm happy to provide people with information, but when they come around and say, hey, I'm related to you through this person, can I see your tree? And I'm sort of like, no. I'm like, who are you? How are you related to this person? What's your lineage? So I want more information. So this brings up another thing, is that when you're talking to people about genealogy and you're requesting people, so if you're doing the DNA test and you go and request information from people, don't just say, oh, you have this person in your tree and I'm related to them. Don't do that. Turn around and say, hey, you have this person in your tree. This is this is the information I have on that person, and then I'm related to them through that, and put the steps in there. And that way it means when somebody like me comes along and sees that email, I'm sort of like, oh, okay. And I'll go through and I'll go, oh, okay. So I then go into my tree and have a look, pull up this person that they said that I have in my tree, and do I have the same information? Now, it could be that I have most of the same information and they're providing me a piece that I don't have, or it could be that it's a completely different person. And then, of course, like if they turn around and say, like, this is a good example. Somebody turned around and said to me, oh, I'm a descendant of John Eakins. Well, if you're looking in the 1800s, and I've done this from 1850 to 1860, I was trying to find the one John Eakins that fitted into my tree. John Eakins in England in between 1850 and 1860 was as common as John Smith. I went through 183 John Eakins to find the right one that fitted in my tree. There was a lot of research, and along the way I found other John Eakins that fitted into my tree in other places, but the one that I needed, I had to go through 183 John Eakins to find the one. So when somebody turns around and says, and then I also found that Thomas, George, and William were also very common names on both sides of my family tree. So both my mother's side and my dad's side, very common names were George, Thomas, and William. And there's a lot of them. And of course you put Eakins on there and it's like adding Smith. In the years that I was looking. So when you're asking somebody for information or wanting to find out if you have a connection, offer them some information that would help them find that person in their tree. Like it could be, John Eakins he was born in 1845 in Warboys, England. His parents were, and then, list who his parents, list all the information you have about that person that you're related to, and then how you're related to that person. Because it's been quite interesting. Somebody turns around and said to me the other day, he says, it was just the last name, and I can't remember the last name, but say, for example, it was one that goes, oh, I have a Williams in my tree, I'm related to Williams, can I have a look at your tree? And I'm like, no. I said, I need to know who are you, how are you related to this person, what is the person's name that you're researching, when were they born, how much information do you have on this person? I need to know that information to see if I can match you to my tree. So when you're looking at genealogy and stuff, you're looking at these DNA tests, yes, it's great that you can connect with all these people. It shows you all these people you have in common and everything else, but also be cautious about approaching them. because some of them are okay, and some of them are a little wacky. Because everybody's getting into it now, going, oh, and then they think they're going to found this family, they're going to have this big family reunion and all that sort of stuff. And some of them could be like, not on the right side of the tracks. They could be the scammers and that sort of stuff as well. And decided to go see who they're related to and find out as much information as they can. So if you are doing genealogy, be protective of the information, especially if you've got live people in your tree. I have my tree locked down as tight as I possibly can, and anybody who sees my tree, if anybody does not have a death date on there, it's listed as private. That's all they see. They will see the people's name and then they'll see private. And I believe that if they've died within a certain amount of time, like within the last 10, 20 years, it'll have private there as well. I can't remember what the cutoff is. But I know Ancestry has a cutoff date that if if the death date is within a certain number of years from today's date, then they will list that person as private as well. The other way you can list them as private, if you don't want people to know when that person died, is that you just don't put the death date in, but you have it there in the notes. So it will list them as private because they'll still think that they're alive. And most, I know that when I'm looking at the New Zealand records, for births the person had to be at least 100 years ago or stillborn in the last 50 years or longer. For marriages, they had to take place 80 years ago. And for deaths, what was the deaths one? Actually, no, the deaths one you can actually do quite recent. Oh, and only if the person's over a certain age. If the person is over a certain age, then you'll see their death record. If they're not over that certain age, then you won't see their death record until they reach that age type of thing. So say if their death happened in the last 50 years, but they're over 80 years of age, then you will see their death records. I'm trying to think, maybe the death one, but I know the birth one is 100 years or 50 years or longer if they were stillborn. So, some countries have these restrictions and when you are looking for records. So keep that in mind, that a lot of places, if you're looking for births, deaths and marriage certificates and stuff, be aware that some of them may have restrictions on what information they will show you. So I kind of like to keep everything locked down tight and everything else. So, but that's it. What are some of the really cool things that you have found? If you're researching your family tree, what are some of the cool mysteries you now have to solve and that sort of thing? So I love mysteries in the family tree. I love them. I love getting the rumors and then going and either proving or disproving those rumors. We've got some curly ones and then you get the curly ones that will sort of like cause you to have you've got some curly ones, and then you have all these theories about things like, for example, is this person really the mother of this person? Or was that person actually the illegitimate child of one of their children, or something like that? So, and then you have all these theories that go all around it, and then you ask family members about it, and they're sort of like, we don't talk about that. They're like, so it's kind of really fun, like trying to prove or disprove the rumors. I love doing that. And then trying to find those elusive people, 183 John Eakins to get that right one. I mean, that's persistence. But I found him. Oh my gosh. It was like I had my own little happy dance party on that one. Brad wondered what was going on because I was upstairs. We were in Virginia at the time. We were upstairs when I found it, and there was a big yahoo, and I just started like jumping up and down and carrying on, and Brad was wondering what all the noise was about. And I said, I found him. And he's like, who did you find? And I had to go and tell him, and he's sort of like, and we put all that performance on for that. And I went, yeah. And he just sat there and went, aha. Like he just shakes his head like he couldn't believe that I got that excited about finding them. I said, you don't understand. I had to go through 183 of them to find him. And I said, it's like when you're programming and you've got that one little glitch in there that you can't find, that's just giving you that little niggle, and it's just poking at you until you find that little glitch and you correct it. I said, that feeling? He goes, yeah. I said, well, that's how I feel when I find somebody in my tree, or I solve a mystery in the tree. So anyway, that's it for me. What's some of the mysteries that you've got in your family tree? If you want help with them, private message me, because I'm actually going to be starting up a genealogy coaching thing, helping people find trees, maybe even, I don't know. I haven't fully worked out the plan of it. But I have a lot of knowledge from over 30 years of researching, and I am going to organize a trip up to Salt Lake City to go to the family library up there. I actually got to see the outside of it when we were in Salt Lake City in August, and I was itching to go inside. I so wanted to go inside. But Mum and Dad wanted to go and explore, so I figured I can come back anytime. And considering the fact that the campground I was staying at, there's a tram stop right there, and there's one right outside the library, I'm good to go. So anyway, what's some of the family mysteries that you have that you would like some assistance with? Maybe I can give you some hints and tips on where to look for that information. Just private message me, and I will be more than happy to see if we can help you get on the right, solve that mystery, or find that person that is elusive. Give you some hints and tips on how to do that. So just send me a private message and we'll get that done for you. Otherwise, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Hei konara.